Hey guys, commentator here, and you're listening to Brad and Avry Hour.
Hey, what's going on? This is Master T coming your way. And is there an hour you need to lock into? Yes, it's the Brad and Avry Hour, the only hour you need to lock into.
Yo, what is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome back to the Brad and Avry Hour mini cast. Brad Bartko, Avry Lewis McGoogle, and as you can tell on the camera, we're joined by a very old friend of ours, someone we covered in the CFL Hampton football team, and he is now the starting quarterback of the BC Lions. It is the one, the only Mike Reilly. Mike, how you doing, buddy? Long time no talk, good sir.
It has been a while, man. I see you're still rocking the hat. I mean, I've changed it up. I've clean shaven it a bit, but same old you, man. Good for you.
Yeah, I was going to say about my first question, my first point is that, I've known you, Mike, since 2013, and probably like from halfway through season one, you decided, I don't know what it was when you first got to the CFL, you decided you're going to roast these three reporters, Matt Chinetti, John Liu, and myself. Why did three of us your targets? How did that start where you say, these three guys? Yeah, I'm going to make them my targets of jokes as long as I'm in the CFL.
I mean, I'm not even familiar with the three people that you mentioned, so I'd like to help you out, but I don't know, man. Must not have been important enough to really register on my memory there. Sorry about that, man.
Wow. That's cold.
I mean, let me just tell you this: if your name's being mentioned in the same sentence as Chinetti, that's not a compliment.
Listen, I'll tell you this much, Mike. If you throw a ball this season and I'm on the sidelines, I'm catching it.
I mean, if I get to throw a ball this season, I don't really give a damn who catches it. I'll just be excited that I'm throwing a ball. How about that?
Fair enough. So I got to ask you, Mike, just how tough has it been for, I guess, better part of a year to not have the routine of gearing up for a season or going into a camp or putting on the pads? How has it been tough to, I guess, really, I know you're a family man, I know you have a wife and kids, but how tough has it been to, have that normal routine of getting ready for a season completely disrupted for a better part of a whole year?
Yeah, that's been tough. I mean, we can't complain any more than anybody else because everybody on the planet has had their lives disrupted for it's been a year now, right? I think back to when the last time that I was in Vancouver, and it was mid-March, and I was there thinking that we were gearing up, getting ready to start putting the final touches on the playbook, getting ready for training camp and things like that. And I left Vancouver I don't remember the exact date. I think it was like March 14th, somewhere around there. It was a Wednesday, I know that. And I crossed the border, and on the radio, they were announcing that the NBA had canceled the season. And that was like, whoa, what the heck is going on here, right? And here we are a year later, and it seems like we're coming out the other end of it, but we all don't really know that for sure. So it's been tough because, our lives are so structured. I've been a pro football player since 2009, so it's been a while. And the one thing that you can bank on as a pro football player is the structure of your schedule, right? Whether it's in season or off season, you know what it is. If it's in season, you know that you have, day 1, day 2, day 3 of practice, day 4 is a walkthrough or a travel day 5 is a game day, day 6 when you get back is a rundown, and then day 7 is the day off. And then you repeat for 18, 20 weeks, whatever it is. And then during the off season, for me, it's always been December is holidays and family time, and then January I start kind of getting back into things, and then February through the end of April is when I'm in hardcore training mode, and then May is making sure that I'm prepped and ready to go for training camp. So, to be in the limbo that we all were, from whatever time, May until August, whenever they officially canceled the season, that was really challenging because you were trying to walk that fine line of making sure that you were ready to go at a moment's notice, but also continuing on with your life. I mean, you can't just put everything on pause. As you said, I have a family, I have a wife and kids, so they were excited to have dad home, for a time period that I normally am not home, but you have to kind of just try to have that balancing act of going, okay, I need to be ready to play if and when we get the green light. But at the same time, I can't just sit here and do football nonstop with the real possibility that the season's not going to get played. And all of our players were in that circumstance. So that's been challenging. This year's been different in the sense of, I think we all have a heightened optimism that we will play a season. So, this is once December, January hit, I kind of got back into that mode of like, okay, this is my structure of my workouts and things like that. But I'd be lying if I didn't say still in the back of my head, you realize there's a chance that that things don't go according to plan, and whether that means there's a delay in the start to the season or, God forbid, a cancellation again. You just don't know until we actually get on the field. That'll be a great day, but I think we're all kind of, optimistically hoping that's going to be the case. But again, until I step foot on that field with my gear on and start throwing a ball, you never really know.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, you mentioned it. That with hockey potentially bringing fans back here in the next couple months, that there's that might even heighten the sense of possibility of a CFL season. But you mentioned in the back of your mind, you kind of took the words out of my mouth, back of your mind, that maybe there is not a season. And a guy like you that's been an athlete since 09, you're kind of in that routine, you know what's going on. So if they cancel the season again, kind of, do you almost start looking for something else? Are you doing something else? Or are you just gearing up for next year again and kind of staying back in that hamster wheel routine? Or what are you going to do? Like, you got a backup plan in case? Or
Right. Well, I mean, that's a great question. That's a question that normally I would never have been able to answer. As a pro athlete, the careers are generally very short, right? Like the average is 2 or 3 years or whatever the number is. And I've been blessed to have a much longer career than that. And I plan to play for a number of years still. Physically, I feel great. Mentally, of course, I'm excited to play. But I've been asked that my entire career, I think, as every pro athlete, always is, whether it's by members of the media, members of your family, or just random people that you get introduced to. That seems to always be the intriguing question that people want to know, is like, what are you going to do when you're done? And, I was always confident that I was going to have a long career, and I never really worried too much about it. I got my degree in mechanical engineering, and I knew that I had a good education that I could fall back on, but I never really took that question all that seriously, because I knew that I was playing well and having success in the CFL, and had confidence that my career was far from over. And I still believe that. But I think, as with a lot of the other guys, that didn't have a season last year, I had to start looking into that more seriously, than I had in the past. And actually, through the CFLPA, I got started with a program getting certified to be a firefighter. And that's something that I'm now well on my way to doing. I've finished a good majority of the coursework, and we're partnered with an academy called Training Division that was started by Brad Lowen out of Ontario, who now lives in the States, and he took his academy down to Texas. And there's a lot of guys in the league that have either completed that course or are in the midst of doing that right now. And so that's something that I'm actually very excited about. I'm very much looking forward to doing. Hopefully it's not for a while that I have to utilize that, but if and when the time comes, I'll be ready. So that's something that, I've become extremely passionate about. I've sunk a lot of my time this offseason into that, and I'm very much looking forward to it. But, again, hopefully it doesn't come to that, or when it does, it's later rather than sooner. And I think we're all, fairly confident that we're going to be on the field playing in some type of capacity this year. But again, if there's anything that 2020 taught us, it's that you can't really ever guarantee anything. So we'll see how it goes.
No, of course, that is very true. You can't guarantee anything, as we learned over the past year. But as we saw in the past couple of weeks here and past couple of months, we've been seeing team schedules leaking out or coming out by the team. We're seeing plans, the vaccine rollout. There's the idea of fans getting back in. Of course, nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is set in stone. So to give you optimism when you see things like schedules being released and the idea of fans being at least discussed right now for a potential season this summer?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of positive stuff to look at for sure. As Brad had mentioned, that we were talking about before we started kind of this discussion, was the potential that the Oilers are trying to get fans in their arena in April. Certainly, if they're able to achieve a way to do that safely, you would have to believe that them being an indoor arena and the CFL being outdoors other than BC, but we have a retractable roof, so we can make it an outdoor stadium. And just the sheer size of our venues being able to space people out quite well. You would think that that would be an indicator that we would be able to get fans in the stands to some capacity. The vaccine rollout, although slower than any of us want it, we all want everybody to be vaccinated right now in the snap of a finger, but it doesn't work that way, of course. But although it's been slower, I think, than we'd hoped for, it's still happening and the numbers are going down. So that's obviously something you look at, and that gets you feeling good about the potential of return to play with in-person attendance. But there's also other things around the league when we had free agency happen, and teams were actually, signing players to contracts and things like that. And for some guys in the league, signing bonuses were parts of those contracts. So if teams were willing to pay out a bonus check, in February, then you had to believe that they had a high degree of confidence that there was going to be football games being played for 2021. That just doesn't seem like a sound practice for a team to invest financially unless they knew that they were going to get some type of return on that investment, of course, right? So again, not a guarantee, but something that makes you, another sign that points in the positive direction. As you said, schedules being released, that's another thing that, of course, makes you go, okay, they're spending time, putting together a schedule. They wouldn't just waste their time. So that, they're doing that for a reason, that they have some degree of confidence that we'll play. But also just the amount of time that they've had, since the cancellation of the 2020 season. You'd like to believe that there's been enough work put in both by the PA and the league that, there's contingency plans, if things don't go exactly as we want them to, that we'll at least still be playing football. And that's the hope, and that's the thing that you always, you try to believe in that and have confidence in that. But again, like we say, until we're out there throwing the ball around, there's no guarantee, right? So
that's true.
Mike, the last time I seen you was in the CFL Awards last time in Edmonton. So I'd be remiss not to ask about your time in Edmonton and then your move to BC. How difficult was that for you leaving Edmonton? Obviously, I'm sure it couldn't have been easy. You spent the majority of your career there, and then of course, but I would have to think that family also played a factor in your move to BC, obviously being close to your kids and to your wife. Obviously, family, I would assume, is number one priority. So is that what factored into a decision, or maybe was it just a fresh start and a new beginning? Obviously, Ed Hervey was there in BC when you went there, so some familiarity and connection. And so what kind of went in behind that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Edmonton and my time spent there was, to this point, the most important part of my professional football career. It was my first real opportunity to be a starter. I'd had 2 starts under my belt by the time I got to Edmonton, but they were in, relief duty with an injured Travis Lulay. So it wasn't because it was my team or my starting job. And then 2013 changed. That was my chance to take over a club and be the starter and be the franchise player. And I got to spend 6 seasons there, and it was, it was an amazing ride. And it was, I didn't really plan on it ending after 6 years. I thought I'd be there for longer. It was the city where both of my daughters were born, a place where Emily and myself created friendships that will last a lifetime. And just the comfort level within the city and the fan base, I can't really put words to it. It was a place that really felt like home. And, being able to live downtown, but also be a 5-minute drive away from the stadium, and, just going out to Costco on the weekends and having dozens of people come up and recognize me and my family and want to talk football and take pictures and things like that. Winning a Grey Cup there in 2015 was obviously the pinnacle. Bringing an MOP back to the city in 2017, and just so many different memories that I'll obviously forever be grateful for. It would have had to be a perfect storm to take me away from Edmonton and to be to be realistic, that's exactly what happened. It was, the opportunity to go to a team that I also had familiarity with in BC, being the first team that I played with in the CFL. So it wasn't a completely foreign team. I knew how things worked. I knew the city. I'd lived in and around the Vancouver area for 3 years at the beginning of my career. I knew how the practice facility worked. I knew how game day worked with that team. I still knew some guys that were on the roster were teammates, ex-teammates of mine. And then some guys like Joel Figueroa, who I'd played in Edmonton with, as you mentioned, Ed Hervey, who I'd obviously played for 4 years in Edmonton, being the GM in BC. And then the most important, and really the only important factor, was proximity to home. At the time that I signed in BC, we had already had Cadence. We had 2 girls then, and traveling from Seattle to Edmonton is a flight, and traveling from Seattle to Vancouver is a drive. And there's a massive difference in anybody that has children knows that there's a massive difference in loading a couple of kids into their car seats and going for an hour and 45-minute drive versus getting on a flight and traveling, internationally, and, getting the kids up, getting them into the car, getting them to the airport, getting the car parked, somehow traveling with the car seats and the luggage, by yourself with 2 kids, getting through security and customs and all those things, getting on a flight and flying, and then landing and doing that whole process over again, getting a rental car, doing all these different things. That's what Emily would have had to do every single time that she wanted to come up and every time that I wanted to see my wife and kids, versus, like I said, getting in the car, driving for less than 2 hours and showing up and being there. So the 2019 season, is as many challenging things as there were that happened. I got to see my wife and kids at a minimum 4 out of 7 days of the week for the entire season. They came up during away games. If we played, say in Hamilton on Friday or Saturday, they would get there Friday evening, and I would get home Saturday night, and my wife and kids would be there until Monday. So even on away games, I got to spend time with my family. So that wasn't going to be possible anywhere other than Vancouver. And my decision making will always start with my family being at the top of the priority list. So there was a lot of different reasons why BC ended up being the right fit, but certainly at the top of that was my family.
For sure. And Mike, I got a follow up to that. I mean, we knew him very well in Edmonton as a legend, the name Joey Moss. And I want to ask you kind of, obviously we lost him tragically. And I want to ask you kind of the relationship that he had, not only with you, but the guys in the locker room. Obviously his connection in Edmonton with the Oilers, but not only the Eskimos. So what did he mean to you on kind of a personal level? And what did he mean, or what maybe did he bring to the Eskimos?
I mean, you can't help but smile when you hear the name Joey Moss, right? Like, I have so many memories of him, and most of them are probably too inappropriate to tell, on a live interview, just because he was one of the guys in the locker room, man. If there's one thing about a sports locker room, it's that you got to be on your toes, and people like to mess with each other, and that's what keeps things interesting. It breaks up the monotony of the day, and it breaks up the intense stress that you're under when you're playing pro sports. I mean, there's always a massive pressure to win, and people's livelihoods are on the line, and if you sit there and think about it too much, that can be extremely pressure filled and stressful. So being able to lighten the mood is something that's very important to be able to have happen. And nobody was better at it than Joey Moss. And, it was tragic to the CFL, to the NHL, to the city of Edmonton, to the country of Canada, to lose Joey. I think everybody was affected by that. But Joey was amazing. The fact that, I can have family over. I can have my parents or my in-laws over, and we can sit around the table and have conversations about Joey Moss, and have them with people that have never even met Joey, but they still appreciate him. Like my in-laws tell stories to other people when they're not even around me. They're back in Kennewick and they're out at the golf course and they're telling stories about Joey Moss, who they've actually never met, but they've heard so many stories from me that they feel like they know him. And that's the type of impact that Joey had on anybody that he spent any amount of time with. And he was certainly, between him and Dwayne, those were the two most important people ever in that locker room, and both people that I thankfully consider friends and people that I love. And it's a tough one, to lose Joey, but his impact will be everlasting. There's no doubt about that.
No, of course, I could not agree more. I know we all have stories with Joey. I know we've all interacted with Joey over the years. He was an empty legend, and he's someone that when crowds are allowed in again, he gets a true and proper memorial from the entire city whenever that can be arranged. And, I'll wrap things up with a couple of questions on my end, Mike. And, I do want to ask you, you're a guy, you've been to CFL now for 10 years. So I want to ask you, what do you feel has improved the most in your game compared to the 2011 Mike Reilly to where you're at now in 2021?
Oh, man. I mean, that's an ever-changing thing, right? Like, with football, at least in my experience, you think that you have a list of things that you need to work on, and okay, that list, you start to work on it, and you turn your weaknesses into strengths, and then other things pop up, and it's just a never-ending cycle of always trying to figure out how to improve and how to get better, and that's always the challenge of football, but that's also what makes it fun, and what makes it interesting, and why you want to keep playing. And I've always told people the day that I think that I have it all figured out and that I don't need to get any better is the day that I need to hang it up, because then I'm just fooling myself, because you can always get better and there's always things to improve on. But I think the progression is one that I've had is what you see in any quarterback that is successful and in terms of having a long career in a number of years. You see it with any of the guys, Ricky Ray, Henry Burris, Kevin Glenn, any of those guys, Anthony Calvillo, guys like that. When you start out and you're young, and you also kind of see it in some of the younger guys that are in our league right now, maybe a Cody Fajardo or a Dane Evans or an Arbuckle or something like that. When you're starting out and you haven't played that much football, but you're capable, you're relying at least to some degree on broken plays to be successful, and using your feet to get out of trouble, and to get out of the pocket and make things happen. And a lot of your most successful plays, when you watch them on film, it's not necessarily how they were supposed to be or how they were drawn up. You just kind of improvised and you made something out of nothing. And that's really, really challenging for defenses to defend that, because they don't have, an answer that, they didn't sit there and work on something all week to take away from you. They just, because they didn't know that that's how that play was going to operate. Right. And so you have to be able to do that, because you're deficient in a lot of other areas. You're not necessarily great with your footwork, or, you don't have a comfort level with what the defenses are doing, or you don't know how to deal with the pressures that they're bringing or the different looks. In CFL defenses, they can give you so many different looks, that maybe you're not as comfortable because you just haven't had enough time to see all of it. And so that's what you see with some of those young guys. And I was no different back in 11, 12, 13, all that kind of stuff. But as you progress in your career, as you get older, you get more experience, and you understand things better mentally, and you understand what the defense is doing, and you understand where the defense's weaknesses are, and you're able to get the ball out of your hand either quicker, or you're able to take and pick your shots in more meaningful moments and things like that. But you have to be able to do that, because you're not as athletic as you used to be. You're not as fast. You've taken hits. Your body is starting to wear down. So it's kind of this weird, arc. It's like as your physical ability is going down, your mental ability is going up, and those things you have to be able to make up for your decline physically with an incline mentally. And so, I've been able to do that. I think anybody that's, again, played it past their, mid 30s, you have to be able to do that. And that's something that the young guys, they got to be able to figure out, because the more ball that you play, I don't know how many starts I have under my belt. It's over 100. I know that. And the more games that you play, the more film these coordinators have on you. Defensive coordinators are very, very good, especially in our league, and they get enough film on you. They're going to figure out how to take certain things away. And if you don't have the ability to process what's going on out there, you're not going to be successful. And again, you can be early in your career, because you can kind of throw a monkey wrench into their plans by just going off the cuff. But the more film they get on you, the less able you are to be able to do that. And so the only way that you're going to last is if you can figure out the mental side of the game. So I still have improvement, of course, to do in that regard. But, that's what's helped me along the way for sure.
Of course, I agree with that. And my last question, Mike, infamously 2017 CFL Awards. You pulled up in a great suit, but a incredibly wild top hat. I want to ask you, Mike, do you still have that top hat somewhere in your house? And we wear it again in 2021 as your game day look?
Well, first of all, I got a question for you. Do you think that you could pull off that hat?
Hell yeah. I think I could.
Okay. I think my head's a little bigger than yours, though. I think that hat would probably come down and the brim would be sitting on your shoulders. So I don't know about that. Pulling Avry out of a hat. But, I do have it. It's upstairs. It's in our master closet. We actually designed, so we redid this whole house and we designed the master closet to have certain things in it, and the whole top of the closet has an area for hats. So I get 20, 25 hats up there or whatever. So I still have it. Whether or not I'll ever wear it again, that's up for debate. I certainly would not do it. For game day attire, it would have to be for a special occasion, whether it's another Grey Cup appearance or MOP, but or maybe just being on your show,
Ah, yes.
Never question
Wow.
whether
I love it.
Appear out of nowhere.
Oh my, that's a great way to end it. That is great.
That's good.
Yo, you're a gem, Mike. Buddy Mike, Brad and myself loved having you on. We got to do it again. Hopefully, when there's the season in summertime, we got to see you. Hopefully, BC Lions have a much better year in 2021. And, it's always a blast talking to you as much as you do like roasting us.
Well, it's my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm just glad that the Wi-Fi on your end held up. I was kind of expecting it to be spotty and cutting in and out, but hey, you impressed me, man. Good job.
Oh gosh, wouldn't be interaction with you out some parting shots. Thanks, Mike. Love you, buddy.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it, man.
Take care, guys.
Cheers.